Roll call and determination of quorum.
Evans. Stroman.
Here.
Roberts.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
Armstrong.
Here.
Quorum is present.
Thank you very much. Now for the adoption of the agenda.
Move approval.
Have a motion to approve by Councilman Jones, a second by Councilman Stroman. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Now it's time for general public comment. This is a time for members of the public to discuss or express concerns to the committee on any issue, not limited to items on the agenda. Action will not be taken at the meeting on any issue not on the agenda, except by placement on the agenda by unanimous vote of the council members present. I don't see anybody jumping up and down to speak, so I will open and close that. We'll move on to consent items, items 1 through 16. I don't believe I have any. I'll open public comment, and I don't believe I have anybody that wants to speak on any items from the audience. So I will turn this over to Dale Tech to comment on these items.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be speaking to items 2 through 14, and then Melissa Peterson from Parks and Recreation will be here to speak to items 15 and 16. With that, I'll jump right in with item number 2. Is a transit grant for a bus replacement. These funds that I believe have been allocated by the FTA for our use. We just need to apply for the grant. The idea is to replace 2 of our Dial-A-Ride buses, and it is an 85%, 15% cost share. Item number 3 is a large design contract for our wastewater treatment plant. As you can see, the design contract is $4 million. We're expecting over $100 million worth of improvements to upgrade our wastewater treatment facility. We've had many discussions in front of the council regarding public hearing, facilities plan, so this is just the next step in the process for us to get going on our wastewater treatment plan, and this design will design the majority of the improvements that we need out there. Items 4 through 6 are annual bid items for concrete, gravel, and asphalt that not only Public Works uses, but other departments use as well. Item 7 is an extension of a contract that we bid last year for utility patching. If we have a water main break, for instance, and need to replace some curb and gutter or some concrete, that's what this project is for. The contractor is honoring prices from last year, which is a great thing for us. Item number 18 is a water project, Enchantment Road PRV. That's called a pressure reducing valve. We've got some underground cathodic protection that we need to do to make sure that we get the entire service life out of that facility that we expect. Item 9 is a street rehab project, Chateau Ridge, which I believe is over off of Sheridan Lake Road. It's a pavement replacement with some other minor curb and gutter repairs, I believe. Item number 10, design contract for extension of sanitary sewer. Ultimately, when this sewer gets extended, it will eliminate the need for the Country Road lift station that we have up off of Country Road. That will decrease our pumping costs up in that part of town and also allow additional capacity up in that part of town as well. Item number 11 is a change order. This is a project that's just getting kicked off out on St. Patrick Street near the intersection of Highway 44. After the project was let, it was found that there's a water main that belongs to somebody else that's within our project limits. It's not in public right-of-way, I don't believe. That's why the city will have to pay to adjust it. Anyway, we're looking at about a $59,000 change order. We hope to, as we get going in construction, determine the depth of the water main. It's an old, what's called an AC water main. It's not metallic. You can't locate it, so we don't know the exact location of it. but once we do encounter it, hopefully we can save a little on the change order based on its depth and location. Items 12 and 13 are kind of together. Last Public Works meeting and City Council, we set for hearing a combined project for this. These two items are the resolutions to submit applications for grant funding for both the water and the water reclamation components to this project. This is 100% grant money, so we're leveraging the ARPA funds that the city received, as well as receiving a matching grant through the state water board. So this is a great example of leveraging our monies with the state monies and being able to fund these projects 100% through grants. If you vote today to have these as unanimous, we have to put them on the city council meeting after the public hearing items. So don't be surprised if you see items 12 and 13 placed later in the agenda on non-consent items, because it has to follow the public hearing. I just wanted to give you that warning. And then finally, item 14, request from Long Branch for an exception, 40 dwelling unit, I believe 44 dwelling units. The recommendation is to approve with stipulations, and I believe the stipulations one is to put a cul-de-sac bulb, and then there's some fire mitigation measures that the fire department is requesting as well. With that, I don't know if you want to ask me questions or let Melissa jump into her two items, and we'll go from there.
I know we have a few questions, at least one question from the council on item 14, so why don't we deal with that right now?
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Tech, just when I was reading the explanation of this, what it was requiring, it said must agree with all the fire mitigation process and everything that comes from the fire department and from the various city offices, and then it said there needs to be a bulb at the end. I assumed a bulb was similar to a cul-de-sac. I looked it up, and that's kind of what I saw. But it also said something that the role of a bulb is to narrow the street, and that seemed odd to me. That was just in a general definition I found. Can you just explain a little bit, enlighten us on this bulb thing?
Well, it's a way to terminate a dead-end street, basically. I'm not sure where you picked up on the narrowing part, but certainly our standards, it doesn't narrow the pavement section typically goes right into a widening of the road that allows for traffic to turn around without having to back up or make a three-point maneuver on like a hammerhead type turnaround.
Well, that's what I was thinking. When I was looking up definitions of bulbs and streets, some examples it showed was it's used to narrow the street, and I thought, well, that can't apply here. So that's just why I wanted to ask about it.
That's correct.
So that the function of it will be just to serve as a cul-de-sac.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And thanks for bringing that up. So we'll make sure in the future we don't use some generic terms like bulb. We'll provide a little more detail so it's clear.
Cul-de-sac.
Just wanted to make sure we knew what we were talking about. Thank you very much. That's all, Chairman. Thank you.
Any other questions from anyone on the agenda, or Laura, do you have any questions?
No, I'm good.
You are the last party in the conference. You will hear silence until the conference begins.
May I address
You may.
Mr. Tech? Hey, Dale, on number 3, which is the water reclamation facility, he mentioned that's a $100 million worth of improvements. Over, when did that, what's the time frame for those $100 million?
Well, it'll be in excess of $100 million. We anticipate there being a total of, I think it's 4 construction projects. One is going to be bid this fall. So the next biddable project, which is going to be a significant one, I believe, will be bid in early next year. Is that correct? 2023? April of 2023, so about a year from now. And then those following 2 projects, the next one in line will come shortly after that. And then the last one is we're preparing for additional requirements coming from the state for what's called nutrient removal. We want to make sure that we're capable, if the EPA regulations and the state mandate additional treatment of our water to remove those nutrients. That's the purpose of the final project. We don't know if we're going to bid that yet or not, but we wanted to make sure we plan for it. And if the regulations look like they're going to come down anytime soon, we'll include that as the final project. If not, it's something we could move out for a number of years likely.
Okay, and the purpose of these improvements, I understand to make sure that we're meeting regulations, but is it also going to address the capacity, or are we looking at having another water treatment facility in town, or is this one going to have to handle whatever's coming up?
This one is for the future. Currently, we have basically 2 plants out there right now. We have what we call a dual treatment train. We've got 2 different technologies treating wastewater. The original technology was built in the 1960s. Once again, it's obsolete. We can't find parts to fix and repair and maintain. So long-term, we're going to install another plant, if you will, on that same property to allow us the capacity to treat not only today's wastewater, but future wastewater as well.
All right, thank you, sir. I just had a few questions about that.
Bill, you have some questions too?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment. I'd really like to see us working on another communication vehicle, because I know when, related to what Mr. Stroman says here concerning a project that's $100 million, and perhaps that term has been dropped in the past, and perhaps we've been warned and we're supposed to be following, but it would be helpful to those of us who aren't doing this 24/7 and aren't following these projects, to have a timeline someplace where all of these big projects can be followed, that at this point we're going to be doing this, and in 2023 we're doing that and everything. And I know the DOT's got a lot of places you can get links and see the timeline where they are at in the project. Do we have anything similar to that we can access? So when people say, what's this $100 million thing I heard about, we actually can give them an answer where we know what we're talking about, because frankly, I don't have any idea what the timeline is on this project that's that huge, and so that's related to this question. I think that would be really helpful with links along the way, and I don't think it would be that hard to form that kind of process where we do that on every project that's bigger than $500,000 or $1 million or whatever we decided to be. We don't have anything like that in place right now, do we?
We do not, but I believe, if I may, Mr. Chairman, I believe you made this comment on, I think it might have been a Parks project some weeks ago, and as I understand it, we're looking at putting together a look ahead collectively as the city about what big projects are scheduled, and if we have a timeline for them to be able to have that information out there. So that's, I fully understand what you're saying. I think that'd be a great idea.
Well, the complexity of what you guys do is foreign to us unless we're following each project, which we usually don't have time to do all the time. So that would be helpful to us, but then it would answer so many questions to the citizenry, because it's always very difficult when we get a call and say, what is this item? And I say, you know what, I got to check on it because I really haven't been following that closely. And I know we've been voting up till now on certain aspects of this, preparing for it, but then we see the big one come in and I think, boy, that big. And then 100 million, that big. And so I think this form of communication could really help us streamline things and save a lot of, you know, phone calling and cleaning up rather, because it's already solved in advance. So that's just, I'm sure many of us would like to work with you guys on that, having something that's accessible for us so we can do some information retrieval when needed. Thanks.
Thank you, Bill. And Pat, you can have the floor again.
Thank you very much. Kind of like when you order a pizza from Domino's, you can tell when it's being made and it's out of the oven, et cetera. I think something like that would be marvelous for these projects. Anyone could look and see, when is the street going to be done? And they could see the progress of it. I think it's a tremendous idea. Would help the taxpayers know more of what's going on, and an informed taxpayer is a great taxpayer. And the other thing I wanted to say is I'm finishing my second year now on the council, and it's been very exciting to hear water projects for the future come forward, wastewater projects for the future come forward, and sewer projects for the future. Many people ask, and it's been asked in that wise part of the Rapid City Journal called 2 cents worth, is the city doing anything to make sure we have water in the future? Well, having sat here now for 2 years, it's very exciting, Mr. Tech, and please pass this along to others, to hear and to know that these things are certainly top of mind. And we want to make sure we assure that we have water for the future, and sewer, and wastewater treatment, and can grow as these things come forward. So it's very exciting to hear, and that just ties in perfectly to what you asked, Mr. Evans, because it would be great to know what's coming up, what's being worked on right now, the progress would be very exciting. So I encourage, or I support Mr. Evans' idea. If something like that could happen, that'd be great. But thank you to all of our city staff for being forward-thinking and making sure that we are doing these things. So yes, Virginia, there is going to be water in the future, and it's going to continue to be an exciting time here in Rapid City. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions or comments?
Well, related to that, and I know the mayor and I spoke last week a little bit about this, maybe time for a communications specialist for the city. I know Sioux Falls has a large department that handles a lot of that, and so it's time to move ahead. Somebody that'll be able to work with our IT people and work with the department heads and everything to help create a website that does this sort of stuff and takes the heat off of people that are already busy doing their job and puts it in the hands of a person who's specified that that is their job. So I think it's time to start having that discussion. I think the mayor may be proposing that in this next year's budget, so thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I just want to clarify, I threw the number 100 million out. That is the base. It's going to be more than that. The numbers we talked about during our public hearing is a total of $145 million. So that'll include design and include that, what I'll classify as somewhat of an optional project in the future if necessary. So I just wanted to be clear that there's not a 100 million limit on it. It may be up to 145 million.
Thank you. If there's no more questions, we'll move over to the 2 items from Park and Rec.
All right, so I'm sitting in for Jeff today. We just have 2 items. Item 15 is to get bids for 2 2022 Dodge 3/4 ton 4x4 regular cab long box pickups. That's for our maintenance team. And then item 16 is to go through the consultant selection process for the Sioux Park Tennis Court project. That was approved through Vision Funds recently. So just getting a designer on board to do our construction documents and get that underway.
Thank you very much. I know we have a couple of people that want to ask questions. Pat, you got the floor.
Thank you, Chairman Roberts. May I ask Ms. Peterson some questions?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Ms. Peterson, first of all, thank you for being here today. Nice to have you with us. So we're going to redesign the Sioux Park tennis courts and do the whole thing. Some people would say or have said to me, well, why can't the city just go in and put down a new surface and call it good? There's a lot of intricacies, I assume, that come with planning a tennis court, the right kind of surface, the right slope, and all those kinds of things. If you could you explain a little bit as to why we need to hire a consultant to do this rather than just plan and do it ourselves within the confines of the city staff?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
We've done a lot of repairs over the years. It's an asphalt court right now. What we are looking at constructing is a post-tensioned concrete court, which is where they put actual like tensioning rods in the concrete and tighten it after the concrete has been poured. That allows for a much more stable surface, and it doesn't crack. There's a lot less problems with cracking. The problem we're having right now is the subsoils are unstable over there. It's pretty close to the creek, so there's a pretty high water table, unstable subsoils. So this is a different construction method than what's there now.
So are there consultants in and around the Rapid City area or in South Dakota that are available for this? Will this go out for bids? Your RFP, I assume you'll just be taking whoever comes forward? Okay, and then you'll be looking at those and determining qualifications. Obviously, we want someone who understands how to do this kind of thing in cold weather and warm weather, so they don't crack and surfaces. We want, Vision Fund chose to fund this, and it's a great idea. Very, very important project for our city, and we want to make sure it's done right. So I'm confident that our Parks Department will get the right people on board, but I just wanted a little explanation for that, because it's a lot bigger deal than people might think. It's not just putting down surface.
Right.
That's exciting to hear about that. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councilman Stroman?
Thank you, Chairman. May I address Ms. Peterson also?
Absolutely.
Melissa, and thank you for getting moving on this project. I think I really appreciate that. We just recently voted on this Vision Fund project, and now you're out getting things lined up, and I think that's great. A question I had is, when we were talking to the various interested persons about the Vision Fund application, they had mentioned to me that there was well, the way they came up with the $3 million was they had someone that had already looked at what it would cost and what it would take. Is there a reason that, is that group, I think it was from Nebraska or Minnesota or someplace, are they being looked at? I mean, are they not adequate for this, or?
So this is just part of the consultant selection process. It was FMG locally who did that conceptual report. That was just kind of a feasibility thing, and they were able to give us a cost estimate. As a city policy, we go through this consultant selection process anytime there is a design fee over $55,000. So we anticipate it'll be more than that. That's why we're going out. FMG will still be considered if they put in a proposal.
Okay. Well, I thought FMG was just looking at the subsurface and what needed to be done there, but there was also a company that actually specializes in tennis facilities that, I know someone mentioned them at one point, and I didn't know if they were involved at this point or not, because my understanding was FMG was just looking at the surface and the soils and what needed to be done there.
They helped us put together the cost proposal as well. So.
Okay. All right, thanks.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on the technology she mentioned, this post-tension slab. And for those who don't know how it works, concrete is virtually limitless in compression, but it has no tensile strength. So if you stretch it, it's going to crack. Well, what they do is they put these cables through, holes in the slab, and so they compress it so much that it's always under tension, no matter what's going on. So the thing, potentially, if it's done right, won't have any cracks in it in 50 years, theoretically. It's a great technology. They use it in a lot of things, from, dams to the CN Tower in Toronto was actually built that way. These huge, quarter-mile high columns, so that when the wind hits it, these giant masts are never in tension. They're always in compression because these cables run a quarter mile and keep the thing pressed. It's kind of fascinating to see how it all works, but this is a great idea because we could have these things in perfect condition for decades if it's done right, so it's cool.
We do. And Laura, do you have any questions or comments?
No, sir.
All right. Well, if we have no more questions from staff, no more comments from staff, we'll go back and I need a motion for consent items 1 through 16.
Second.
Got a motion to approve by Councilman Evans and a second by Councilman Jones. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Move to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody, for the meeting.